on what projects and programs to fund within with the $150,000 again that Santa Cruz AMA receives. And then finally, it's going to be ADW director decision to determine which of these projects and programs would be funded, but he really relies on your recommendation to make this decision. And finally, after he makes the decision, we will, the selected projects will be announced, and we'll start working on projects and programs. So that is option one. Option two is medium GUAC participation, and the difference here is that, excuse me, is that the only difference in the process is that after ADWR initial screening, we will have ADWR grant evaluation committee review, which there'll be 3 reviewers from the department that could go through the applications that were received. If from some reason the GUAC members would only like to receive a certain amount of applications. So for example, if we receive 15 applications, and again, that means that GUAC members would either have to read all of the applications and have all of these 15 presentations presented to them. GUAC members may decide to say, you know what, we only want to review 10 applications or 7 applications, and that's where option 2 would come to place. Is ADWR evaluation committee will prioritize what projects we think are the most valuable for the AMA and maybe bring us the best bang for our buck, and then we'll bring only that number of projects to the GUAC for evaluation. And then it moves, again, as we mentioned in option 1, we have ADW director decision and moving forward. And finally, option 3, which is definitely not what we would recommend, but because it could be, depending on how many projects we'll receive, it could take some time to go through all of the applications and all of the presentations. There is the option, if you decide that that is the course of action that best suits you, is that there is not going to be any requirement of the GUAC to read the applications and have the presentations. I would say because Santa Cruz receive 150,000. I don't know that we receive so many applications, but we never know. So these are the 3 options that we would like your thoughts on. Again, this is not a motion, but we just want to know what both of you or either of you think you would like to participate through this process.
So you're asking us which one we prefer?
Yes, sir.
Well, I don't like number 3. I just feel that the GOC should review all of them. You know, just out of keeping everybody content that they're not getting cut out by GUAC or something. So I'm like you. I'm not very much in favor of 3. Either one or the other. I guess number 2, you was going to cut down you're going to review and only submit so many to us. Is that right?
Correct. And it could be a number that you choose. So we could say if let's say GUAC members would like to review 15 or less proposals, if we receive less than 15, GUAC members would review all of them. If we receive 17, then the ADWR committee review could potentially remove the lowest scoring projects.
Mm-hmm.
Again,
can we make a decision on, you know, there again, that's depending on if you get 100 applications, you certainly don't want to review all of them, but have to 10 them out.
Exactly.
Is this something we can make a decision on after we see how many applications have been applied? Or
Yes, we can make this decision after we see how many have applied, and that's something that, again, we won't know until the closing date, and we could get back to you and let you know how many we have for the Santa Cruz AMA, and that's something that we can definitely then evaluate.
I agree with Ron. I don't like option 3 either, and just one question of clarification on option 2 or 1. You just mentioned a moment ago that if we set a certain number that we wanted to review as a GUAC, that the lower ranking ones would kind of fall off the list. Then would GWR rank them by score somehow, or is that part of the interview process?
Correct. We will rank them by a certain amount of score, and the score would be according to what we ask in the notice of funding opportunity, which Melissa Sykes from our office will go over. It's one of those documents that we shared with you, and we'll just score them according to what was asked.
Okay. All right. Understood.
Yeah, right.
So, Gary, just to follow through, you mentioned that you agree with Ron. Are you both saying that you would like to wait and see how many applications we get and make the decision afterwards?
Yeah, from my chair, I would. I think that was a good point he raised. I mean, we don't want to sit personally. In fact, I don't know how even how good a bet it is that we're going to get all four of us in a room to interview, lots and lots of people that have programs. But I think if we know that there's going to be not 100, or if there's only going to be 3, well, then that may change our approach between 2 and 1.
Yeah.
Yes.
Excellent. I have a question. Are you going to set a limit on the amount of money that a single project can apply?
That's a great question, Alejandro. We actually, and again, Melissa would go through it when she described the notice of funding opportunity in a second here, but we do set a suggested minimum, but not a maximum. Obviously, the maximum will be $150,000 because that's as much as we get, but we do have a suggested minimum of $25,000 just because we want to make sure that the administration time of the programs and projects that are accepted would be valuable. So we don't then receive $1,000 projects and programs that we need to then administer, which can take a lot of time and efforts and resources for a project that may or may not have a huge valuable groundwater conservation. And that's another thing we would like your comment on when Melissa going to go to that section.
Are there going to be requirements for matching or extra points for matching money?
It's not a requirement, but these projects would have priority. And if you're ready, and thank you, these are great question, Alejandro, and I think it's a good segue to the next agenda items. But before we move, I just want to make sure that we're pretty much done with the discussions on the process, and that at least 2 of the members, we have both Ron and Gary, would like to know how many projects and program applications you received at the end of the process, and then we'll move forward with GUAC recommendation on how many to actually evaluate.
I guess I just want one question, which is a simple one.
Of course.
But,
of course.
Is there anybody's eligible to apply for it? There's nothing no requirements that they have to belong to anything or be in any kind of certain business or be in some any kind of, anybody's open to applying for it.
Anyone can apply. The only requirements is that the projects are going to be located in the AMAs, and that they also going to have a program or project that supports groundwater conservation, which is the whole meaning of the grant. So yes.
Right. Okay. That answers that one. Thank you.
I have one more if I can. Maybe you explained that before, but how the decision was made to base the funding on population?
That's just the decision that we received from legislators. That's whenever we were assigned the $2 million in grant money, that was the decision that was made on how this fund will be divided among the AMAs.
Okay. Well, I see it, but it's just that we're always going to be the last in the pool.
Yes, but it's $150,000 that we haven't had last year, so that's at least a positive in that way.
So this is in addition to the conservation money that gets collected from the fees?
Correct. This is in addition to all the water management assistance program funds, and we'll talk about this in, I believe it's agenda item number 4. So if we're finished with agenda item 2A, we can move on to agenda item 2B, which I will have Melissa talk about. Sorry, I lost my agenda here. Talk about the review. She'll review and discuss the grant cycle notice of funding opportunity. So I'm gonna have Melissa take that on.
Can I ask one more question?
Of course.
Does water quality, a concern for water quality, also be considered part of groundwater conservation? Or is it just quantity concerns?
So it's the quantity, the groundwater conservation, the quantity of the groundwater. Water quality is more of a water augmentation type of, I guess, differentiation. However, if an entity or an individual believes that by improving water quality, they could also conserve groundwater, then that may be a project that they want to apply for, and then we'll, through the evaluation process, we can determine if that is a project that can be funded through this grant or not.
Thank you.
Of course. Excellent. Here's Melissa.
Good morning, everyone. I do want to let Ron know that this is an updated version of the Notice of Funding Opportunity, and you have the previous draft. And so the only differences are going to be on the title page. We included a table of contents, and we added to our appendices.
Well, I never have received it, so that's not a problem. We're just going with what I'll just go with what's going today, and that'll be fine.
Ron, I just want to confirm, did you receive the packet that we mailed you?
No, I didn't.
Oh, sorry about that. So
no, that's not,
Melissa will try.
That's your fault. That's my
Okay, you
situation.
may receive it then in the next day or two. So just
well, yeah. Then if I get it today, can we continue the conference tomorrow?
While we're eating our turkey, right?
No, that's fine. I'm fine with what information I'm getting right now. So.
Excellent.
Well, I apologize for that inconvenience.
That's not good. No.
So I guess we'll just start with page 1. We have our title page, and then we have our table of contents after the page break there. So on page 1, we are introducing the grant and the Water Management Assistance Program, and in this section, we're specifying that they do come from 2 different funds. I know ANAV has already covered that, so we can move on if there aren't any questions about the difference. Our program objectives, this was also covered a little bit by ANAV. We have this grant is for groundwater conservation. And to clear that up, we included a definition. Groundwater conservation includes strategies and technologies that protect Arizona's groundwater resources for current and future generations, which include but are not limited to the reduction in the consumption and withdrawal of groundwater, reduction in the loss and waste of water, improvement in water efficiency, and increase in the reuse and recycling of wastewater. If there's no questions on that section, we can move on to the award information. This is detailing how we have broken down the $2 million in grant monies. For the Santa Cruz AMA, you have been allotted $150,000 with a minimum of $25,000. Can I ask them about the voting? So for this section, do you have any adjustments you'd like to make to the minimum, or would you like to apply a maximum or anything like that? Or any comments about that?
No, I'm all right with that. You know, any kind of project's probably that amounts to anything's probably gonna need at least 25,000, I would imagine. So, so I'm all right with those figures.
Okay. Anyone else?
Gary, do you have any thoughts on the 25 or 1,000, or that works for you as well?
Hi, Gary ran out of the room for just a moment. He'll be right back.
Okay, sounds good.
Sorry.
So we'll just continue. No problem. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we'll just move on. We also have specified a period of performance of a maximum of 5 years. On the next page, we have our eligible applicants, and these are our eligibility criteria. You have to be located within one of the 5 AMAs, and the last 2 are if applicable. If applicable, the applicant must provide appropriate documentation of legal and physical access as well as authority to implement the project. And 3 is, if applicable, the applicant must provide appropriate documentation that any water to be used in the project is legally and physically available. In our grant requirements and details section, this is covering what we are requesting the applicants to submit, as well as provides a table of examples of water conservation programs and projects. This isn't a limited list. This is a list just to get people thinking about the types of projects that they can apply to. Are there any additions you would like to make to this table? Oh, I'm sorry, Ron, you don't have that.
No, that's all right. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, I'll just continue.
No, go ahead.
For the priority section, we have 4 priorities: projects that provide an additional contribution, projects with new innovative qualities, projects that demonstrate higher impact compared to the other proposed impacts in terms of groundwater conserved, and projects that demonstrate multiple benefits. Would you like to see any additional priorities on this list?
And here, by the way, Alejandro, is where we mentioned that contributions are not required, but it's just gonna be a priority for those projects that are receiving recommendations.
Okay. Is there projects like, for us, it's $150,000, and there are 2 projects that are requesting $150,000, and so the decision is going to be just to fund one project or to split the money, or how that's going to be done?
It would be to fund one project, because the applications will be specifying a full project. So if we do end up only giving half of the fund for one project and half to the other, both projects may not be complete to the satisfactory way that they could have been otherwise. So it would be to fund one project for $150,000 if we end up having 2 that are $150,000.
Okay.
Okay, if there are no more priorities that we'd like to add to this list, then I'll continue to the payment of funds. This is just going over the types of how we're going to be giving payments to the applicants who do receive the grant. It'll be on a reimbursement basis. So much like the Water Management Assistance Program, you'll submit a deliverable, and for that deliverable, you'll receive your payment. And this section also details how long it may take for reimbursement of funds, which is about 60 days once approved by ADWR.
I've got one question on reimbursement.
Yes.
I understand the reimbursement after effect, which is fine, but is there somebody going to decide that the reimbursement isn't applicable?
What do you mean by reimbursement?
Well, if say they ask for part of the one half of the reimbursement, but you say that's what the project, what they're asking reimbursement for is not really comparable to what the grant is meant to be. Oh,
yes, that's a great question. We always ask for some sort of a program or project progress report. So they need to describe to us what they accomplished, and it needs to match what they said that they will accomplish in order to receive the funds, or at least part of the funds that would apply to the specific task that they're asking the funds for. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, that's good. I mean, don't want someone to get reimbursements for something that they're not really eligible for. So.
Yes, and that's exactly why we want to make sure that they communicate to us what was achieved, and only then we verify that that is what we were looking for and what they said they'll do, and then we issue the money.
Right, that's good.
Okay, if there are no more comments on that section, we'll move on to the application requirements and details section. And this is going over the specifics of what we would like the applicants to submit. We want the project proposal to be clear and concise and not exceed 15 pages in size 12 times New Roman font with normal margins and 1.5 inch spacing. We also have 9 items that we are requesting the people to submit. The first being an application cover page, which is attached in our appendices. An executive summary not to exceed 500 words. A project overview. Our scope of work, or their scope of work. The budget breakdown and narrative, which is also located in our appendices. Additional contribution breakdown, if applicable. A project map. And supplemental information that will include evidence of physical and legal availability of water, if that is applicable to the project, as well as evidence of control and tenure of the land, as well also applicable, if applicable, and our State Historic Preservation Office review form, which is required. And the last item would be our application checklist, just to ensure that the applicants have completed all the tasks that they have needed to. We also have a section detailing presentations to the Groundwater Users Advisory Councils. So they'll be providing a brief 15-minute presentation to the applicable GUAC, and the GUAC may request a pre, interim, and post-project report. That's depending on the project and what you would like to see from those projects or programs. There's then application assistance information, and that's just my contact information with my phone number and my email for any applicants that need some assistance with applying, or if they just have any questions about what is in the Notice of Funding Opportunity. On page 7, we have the timeline. The Notice of Funding Opportunity is available December 2nd, that's this upcoming Monday, and we will be having a pre-application workshop on the 10th. That will be located here from 8:30 to 10 in room 3175 on the 3rd floor of ADWR. The final date to submit the application will be February 14th by 5 p.m. Arizona time. And yes, that's it for that section. The last bit is the review and selection criteria, which is covering basically what was in the application requirements and details section, just saying make sure that you have all of the items that we have requested, and awarded applicants will have 30 days upon receiving their contract from ADWR to complete it, or they may be in jeopardy of losing their grant funding. And then we have the last several pages are our appendices with our attached documents. Are there any questions or comments about the Notice of Funding Opportunity?
No. So let me ask you then, the 30-day requirement is which to complete what?
The 30-day requirement is just to make sure that if, whenever we have a contract drafted, that the applicant is responsive and reply back within 30 days with any edits or comments. And this is just to assure that we're not waiting for 6 months or longer for the applicant to get back to us. It's just to make sure that there is communication between us and the applicant.
Right. That clears it up better for them, because the project that once they get accepted the project, am I right that they have a 5-year period to complete it? Is that right?
They could. It really depends on the project or program. Some may only want 1 year. Some may ask for a 3-year project. It really depends on what they're looking for. However, the maximum amount of time that they would have to complete the project is 60 months, is 5 years, correct?
Okay.
But it doesn't have to be 5 years. Could be less.
When you review the application and accept it, do you kind of set a timetable that they should have it done within a period, or do you give them that whole 5 years to complete it?
They usually would provide, well, we ask them to provide us with a timeline. So it's up to them. So some projects may be implemented in 1 year. Another project may be implemented in 3 years. So it's really depend on the applicant and how long they would like to implement the project, or what the project is required. But the maximum amount of time that this grant will fund is a project of 5 years.
Fine.
The question is that 30 days are calendar days or business days?
That's a great question. We haven't actually, we haven't made that determination. We could, what would you prefer? Just out of curiosity, as somebody that may do a lot of contracts, what do you think would be reasonable for you as,
Working
as an
days.
applicant? Working days?
Yeah.
Sorry, Alejandro, you're cutting off.
I think working days work better for everybody.
Okay, we can do that. That's not a problem. We'll add that language there. Thank you for that comment.
And I have another question on, especially for municipalities like me. Are you going to require the contract or the agreement to be signed by or be approved by the mayor's council, or just sign and then I deal?
It's up to the entity. We've had contracts that were signed by the mayor, some that were signed by the public works director. It really depends on what the entity decides to do, and it depends. Some municipalities may require one thing or the other. So to us, as long as we know that whoever signs the contract have the legal and physical ability to complete the project, that's really is what we're looking for.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Are there any other comments or questions or any edits that you would like to see in this notice of funding opportunity?
What happens if somebody gets funded and then they don't follow through and complete the project, and they've got reimbursed for half of it, but they don't complete the whole project? Are you going to go back and collect for what they had been reimbursed? And you follow what I'm saying?
Yes, I follow it. That's a really good question. I believe we have some sort of a language wording on our contract. I don't remember what exactly it specifies. Obviously, they would not receive the rest of the funds because they haven't completed what they said they will. But I'm not sure exactly how it works in regards to receiving the money that was already reimbursed. But we can check that and verify.
Yeah, because some projects, unless they were completed 100%, they wouldn't be a valuable project. You know what I'm getting at? Whatever.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. We can check with our legal team and look at the legal questions in our contracts. I believe there are several mentions, but I don't recall what it specifies.
That's fine.
Before we move on, Gary, are you by any chance back online?
Yeah, no, so I've been here for a while. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Excellent. There was one question that we mentioned when you stepped out for a second, and this is about the minimum the minimum amount for the project. Thanks. Let me move it back real quick here. So as we mentioned before, we put a recommended, or at least a suggested minimum of $25,000 per project. Obviously, the maximum will be $150,000 just because that's as much as we have. But we wanted to get your thought as to, do you think it should be less, it should be more? Do you think 25,000 is a good number?
Boy, I mean, not knowing what kind of projects people might propose, it's sort of hard to tell. But I mean, I would think that certainly as a minimum, 25,000 would probably be a good number. And then, of course, I guess it'll be up to our group to decide when somebody makes a presentation and say their presentation is 65,000, whether to give them all that or some of that or none of that.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
And perfect. Yeah. So as long as the minimum is fine, that's great. And again, just to mention what I said before, we probably going to have a phone conversation with both Mark and Dan to get their thoughts on what we're talking today. So at least we get everyone's input into that. Perfect. So if there are no more questions about sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. On the expenditures that you make in the project, for instance, if you have a project to build something for conservation, are you going to have requirements for procurement? Like, I don't know, the money is the state money. Are there going to be special requirements for procuring those services that we need to procure, or just follow our normal standard procurement process?
Are you talking about AWR procuring the money, or City of Nogales procuring?
Let's say that we need to buy a piece of equipment or something to conserve water, like toilets or something like that, and you need to buy those. And sometimes when there's federal money, you have requirements to follow how to procure those things.
Oh, I got what you're saying. Yes. No, we do not have any guidelines or requirements as to how to procure or purchase those.
Yes.
That I know of. I guess we should check it, but there's never any mention of any.
So we just follow our processes.
Yes, follow your process. And again, we reimburse after. What we care about is that whatever was said to be done has actually been implemented, and then we reimburse the entity for whatever task and for whatever money they ask for in the application.
When you say review, will there be somebody that'll actually go out on the ground and review the project? That just won't be reviewing through the paper process, but there will be somebody going out and actually viewing the project?
It's a possibility. If we see that there is a need for it, we could do that. Usually what we do is, and again, it depends on the project and programs. For example, I can give you an example of some projects and programs that are currently funded with the withdrawal fees in other AMAs. So we have a education program that teaches kids about water conservation and water efficiency. So they send us reports as to how many kids they reached out, how many students. They give us an evaluation of their knowledge before and after those workshops. So we don't necessarily need to go out to the field to see them do it, but we get the report as to how many people they reach that way. There is another programs that help farmers with best management practices and improving their irrigation efficiency. So again, they send us reports as to the farmers and the farms that they have visited and what they implemented or what discussions they had with the farmers and what was the potential for water savings there. So most of the reports we get are paper or, as a report, not necessarily visiting the site, but that's definitely something that we could do if we see that there is a need or a reason to do so.
Right.
can these projects be a joint project between two different organizations?
Sure, that definitely can happen. Excellent. Any other questions or comments?
No, I don't have any. I don't have any. Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Great. So we can move on to agenda item number 3, which is management plan update. We have Natalie Mast, which is the management plan program manager here with ADWR, and she'll take you through some updates on the Santa Cruz fourth management plan timeline and the fifth management plan discussions.
Thanks, Zainab, and good morning, members of the council and everyone else who's on the call. My name is Natalie Mast. I am the program manager working on the management plans here at ADWR. I'm going to talk through some timelines both for the fourth and fifth management plans today, and I would be happy to take any questions that you might have at the end of the presentation. So quick background, ADWR is actively working to complete the 3 remaining fourth management plans for Phoenix, Pinal, and the Santa Cruz active management areas. And at the same time, we are also working to begin the research and stakeholder outreach that will be required for the fifth management plans through the work of the management plans work group. Starting in July, we've been working with stakeholders on both of these concurrent processes. So in July, we published an updated fourth management draft for the Phoenix active management area, and also established the management plans work group and started having meetings there. So we are intending to begin promulgation of the Phoenix fourth management plan in January. After that, we will be working through that process for the Pinal active management area, and after that will be Santa Cruz. So for the Santa Cruz, sorry, go ahead. Did someone have a question?
I don't think so.
Oh. Okay. So for the Santa Cruz fourth management plan, we are hoping to have a draft of that management plan available for discussion in late spring. So kind of the general process there is that we publish a draft plan kind of for discussion purposes. We work with both the GUAC and with local stakeholders to make sure that everyone is understanding any changes associated with the plan, and also that it's kind of workable for that given active management area. We incorporate the comments that we receive and any refinements into an updated draft that gets published. And after that point and after additional discussions with the GUAC, we would take the management plan into the formal adoption process, which involves a noticing process and a public hearing. So again, our goal is to have that initial draft for the Santa Cruz active management area, fourth management plan available in late spring. And we are hoping to finalize the adoption for those remaining 3 fourth management plans by the end of next year. That legal adoption process that I mentioned is extensive and also does incorporate a public comment period. So there are multiple opportunities throughout this process for both the GUAC and for the public to be involved and to comment on the proposed plans. And something to note here, if you look kind of on the right side of this management plan promulgation timeline, you can see that the conservation programs associated with each plan go into effect no sooner than 2 years after the plan is adopted. So that means that for these plans that will be adopted in 2020, the conservation programs in those plans will go into effect on January 1st, 2023. For the fifth management plans, we are still kind of in the early stages of that process. We are working through data analysis, analysis of the existing programs, and will hopefully be moving into kind of the policy and program development side of those conversations in the very near future. We do intend to largely wrap up the work that will be occurring under that work group by the end of next year. And then we intend to take 2021 to draft those 5 fifth management plans, and then use 2023 to adopt those 5 plans. So the conservation programs, again, with that 2-year lag, the conservation programs under the fifth management plans would be effective on January 1st, 2025 under this timeline. We are holding our next meeting of the management plans work group next week on December 4th. It is at 2 p.m. here at ADWR, and that is available via webinar. We are posting the webinar, or we did already post the webinar information on our public meetings page on ADWR's website, or you can get that information by reaching out to us at managementplans@azwater.gov. And that's all I have today. So I would gladly take any questions, and thank you. I appreciate your time and attention today.
I have a question, if I may.
Sure.
Is there any plan or any conversation what's going to happen after the fifth management plan? I know the statute had that goal, but what's going to happen after that?
Sure, that's a great question. So under the Governor's Water Augmentation, Innovation, and Conservation Council, which is actually meeting next week on December 3rd, on Tuesday, so they have created a committee that is focused on inside the active management areas after 2025. So you're absolutely right that the statutes only laid out those first 5 management plans, and it's kind of unclear after that what should happen. So that group will be talking about exactly that, whether there should be a 6th management plan or whether some other structure should come into place at that point. The way we have read the management plan statutes is that each management plan remains in effect until something comes in its place. So where the kind of the 3rd management plan is still in effect in the Santa Cruz active management area until the 4th management plan becomes effective, the same goes for the 5th management plan, where the 5th management plan would remain in effect until something came in and took its place.
Thank you.
And Alejandro, we're trying to the best of our ability, when I remember, I tried to forward those invites to the meetings. They're also always posted on the website, on ADWR website under public meetings, but I do try to send, or at least to forward all of the AMA post-2025 committee meetings to all GUAC members and interested parties. So at least you should be receiving those dates of those meetings.
And I should clarify, this is Natalie again, the next meeting date for that post-2025 group is December 9th, Monday, December 9th at 2 p.m., and that is also available via webinar.
Hey, thank you.
And maybe another thing to mention is that the previous meeting, there was actually one previous meeting. The inaugural meeting was October 10th, and it is posted, the webinar is posted on the Governor's Water Augmentation, Innovation, and Conservation Council webpage. So if you wanted to, you could listen into that meeting at your spare time.
Thank you.
Excellent. Are there any other questions for Natalie about the management plan, either the 4th management plan draft or the 5th management plan? Great.
No, I don't.
Hearing none. Thanks, Ron. So here now we're going to move to agenda item number 4, which is Area Director Report. And I'll start by talking about the withdrawal fee rates for calendar year 2020. So you have on the webinar the past 5 years of withdrawal fee rates within the Santa Cruz AMA. I'm not going to go through the numbers. And Ron, you probably actually don't know that we send that to you. But it's something that we shared with you last meeting. What I do want to mention is, and you may remember that last meeting, GUAC members recommended to maintain the withdrawal fees for 2020 at $3, as they were set in the past 5 years. So I just wanted to let you know that the director did accept your recommendation and said the 2020 withdrawal fees at $3 with the $2 levied towards the Water Management Assistance Program and $1 levied towards the Administration and Enforcement Fund. So this is in the first sheet. And then just in the bottom, I just wanted to let you know that the current balance that we have within the Santa Cruz AMA Water Management Assistance Program fund that is collected through the withdrawal fees is $290,000.77. So this fund is in addition to the $150,000 that is related to the grants. So just so you know, these are two different monies that could be used for the Water Management Assistance Program projects and programs. The other page that you may, that Kennedy is now going to move to, and again, Ron, we could email it to you directly. It just breaks down the past, all the withdrawal fees for 2020 for the 5 different AMAs, just for reference.
That's not necessary for me.
Okay, thank you for that. So that sums up the first part of my report. Do you have any questions on withdrawal fee, rates, or anything else, the Water Management Assistance Program?
None.
No, none for me.
Excellent, thank you. So moving on to the Governor Water Augmentation, Innovation, and Conservation Council, AMA post-2025 committee updates. Natalie answered a little bit about that, or talked a little bit about that. I can just really briefly, or maybe in a little more details, talk about the committee and how that first meeting took place. But as I mentioned, it is available via webinar if you want to get more details. So starting with the co-chairs of this committee, there are 2 co-chairs. One of them is Mr. Tim Tomure, who is a Governor Water Council and Tucson GUAC member. The other co-chair is Warren Tenney, who is also a Governor Water Council member and Arizona Municipal Water User Association director. The goal of the committee is to identify water management challenges facing the active management areas and generate some strategic solutions for 2025 and beyond for the 5 AMAs. This approach involves 2 things. 1, to reflect on the past 40 years of water management in the active management areas while identifying also some of today's problems and challenges. And 2, to propose solutions and strategies for addressing those challenges after 2025. To accomplish these 2 tasks, the committee will compile a list of challenges, categorize and refine them. Then it will be followed by an analysis and prioritization process of all of those challenges that were identified. The committee will then present the finding to the full Governor's Water Council for review and comments. And the target date for the specific presentation to the council is December of 2020. So they'll have about a year to compile a list of all the challenges that the committee perceives the AMA may encounter as we move beyond 2025. After that presentation in 2020, work will begin to develop some of those solutions and strategies to address those prioritized issues that were identified the previous year. As I mentioned, the first meeting took place in October 1st, and that meeting focused on laying the groundwork for the committee's activities in the next couple of years. The meeting included presentation by ADWR staff, including Natalie here, regarding the successes of the Groundwater Management Act and some of the impacts, the positive impacts that Arizona water management policies have had in the past 40 years. Then committee members and participants were asked to start identifying some of the challenges facing the AMAs. And there are many good topics that were brought up, but this is just the beginning of the discussion, so this discussion will continue in the next few meetings. Again, there is another one coming up in December 9th. Another thing to point out is the membership for this committee is open to anyone who's interested in participating and have a stake in what happened in the active management area beyond 2025. Obviously, as GOAC members and as public who participate in these meetings, we all are interested in assuring that the active management area continue to have good water management policies and programs in place. So we really do encourage you to participate, even if it's just listening via webinar. I know you live quite far away to participate in person. We always are happy to have you join us here in the department, but please do take some time, if you can, to listen into the webinar, to provide your comments, your thoughts, and yeah, we'll be happy to provide you again with any updates that come up from these meetings in the next GUAC meetings. And I can take any questions about this topic if you have, and again, encourage you to look into the previous meeting if you wanted to get more details and listen to the recordings.
Nothing for me.
Excellent.
Nothing here.
Perfect. So moving on to the third and last item that we have under the Area Director Report is Pinal Model Release. You may have heard lately in the media about water challenges in Pinal County, so I just wanted to briefly provide some context to these reports that you may or may not have heard. Some of these reports emerged mainly because of several recent activities in the Pinal area and the Pinal AMA, including ADWR releasing the 2019 updated Pinal model a few weeks ago, or it was somewhere in October. And this model projected unmet water demands in the Pinal AMA in the next 100 years. So I just wanted to give you some background to the Pinal updated model release. Prior to 2013, assured water supply applicants submitted analytical and local numerical models. Then in 2014, ADWR completed a regional numerical groundwater model for the Pinal AMA, which was developed to be used for many purposes, including the Assured Water Supply Program. And just to understand some of the differences between the analytical and numerical models, I'll just use our chief hydrologist analogy, describing the two, or the difference between the two as using a rotary dial phone and a smartphone. So you can see the differences in the way that they are functioning. Then in 2019, again in October of this year, ADWR completed an updated numerical model and applied a 100-year assured water supply projection to that model. That 2019 model projected a total demand of 81 million acre-feet in the next 100 years, but it could only simulate a demand of 73 million acres or so, leaving about 8 million acres as unmet demand. So this is the unmet demand that we mentioned that face the Pinal AMA in the next 100 years. A new Pinal local stakeholder group was just formed to start discussing ways in which water users in the Pinal AMA may address these unmet demands. And if you are interested in this topic, you may want to tune in to the meetings of the House Ad Hoc Committee on Groundwater Supply in Pinal County. And also the stakeholder group would also have their meetings starting very soon. And these meetings are open to the public. And I know that specifically the House Ad Hoc Committee meeting is recorded. I'm not sure about the stakeholder group, but it's possible. And the Ad Hoc Committee meeting is found on the Pinal County website. So again, just wanted to give you a brief overview as to what you may hear in the media about water resources challenges in Pinal County. And I can either take questions about these, or that would sum up my, my report to you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm satisfied with your summary. Thank you.
Excellent. So given we don't have the chair here to take us through the other agenda items, is there anything that you as the council would like to talk about, to bring up?
Nothing on my end.
Other than how come Phoenix can't share some of their rainwater with us? You guys keep hogging all the rain.
Yeah, we did get some nice storm the past week here.
Too much.
There's never too much.
Never too much. No, that's true. That's true.
Not in Arizona, at least. I'm sure in the East they would disagree with me.
Yeah. I don't know of anything offhand that I've got in my mind to
Okay.
consider.
Gary, did you have anything you'd like to share?
No, I think this has been very good. Thank you. Well, I'll talk about that when we get to item number 7.
Excellent. So moving on to call to the public. Does anyone from the public have any comments or would like to share anything with us?
Not here.
Okay. Great. So moving on to number 7, future agenda items and next meeting date. Gary, did you want to mention anything?
The point I was going to make there is simply, obviously, we don't have the other 2 members here, so maybe what you've done before of providing us with a number of dates that that work from the department standpoint, letting us pick one, because I think anything we decide today is most likely not going to fit for our other 2 members.
Yes, I would tend to agree that it will be difficult. And also, I'll just share with you that I think our next meeting should be somewhere maybe towards February, maybe even March of next year. So it may be hard for us to know what time we're available at that time. But hopefully by then we'll have a number of projects that we received for the grant, so we can get better information and have better discussions on how we would like to go through the evaluation process.
Okay.
That sounds good?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You bet.
Excellent. And then obviously for future agenda items, we'll definitely keep on talking about the grant cycle and the projects that were received, as I mentioned. We can also, by then we may have a little more information or more details on the timeline for the draft Santa Cruz management plan. If we do, we'll have an update on that and the other 5th management plan discussions. Is there any other agenda items that you are interested in?
Nothing on my end. Thank you.
I imagine if we get into the projects that it'll take up a good amount of time, so I think that's probably be enough.
Excellent. Great. So if there are no other topics to discuss, I guess we can adjourn the meeting.
It's adjourned.
Thank you all very much for your effort.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for calling and bearing with
Thank you.
us to the technology.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks,
This
everyone.
meeting's gonna get you home early this time, isn't it?
That's right. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Saved us 6 hours of driving. Thanks, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving, and
Happy
we're
Thanksgiving.
looking
Thank
forward
you.
to seeing you next year.
You
Okay,
too.
bye. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thanks again.